Well, the head of the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees says that the situation has, quote, reached a breaking point. Israel has accused several UNRWA workers of directly participating in the October 7th terror attacks. The UN responded by launching a probe into those allegations. The head of the UN agency says that the accusations have caused 16 major donor countries to suspend $450 million worth of funding that could severely hamper operations in Gaza as soon as next month. A recent U.S. intel report said that some of the accusations were credible, but could not be independently verified, while also casting doubt on claims of wider links to militant groups. Let's get more on this. We are joined now by Tamara Alrifai. She is a director of communications at the UNRWA, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Tell us a little bit more about the agency's current capabilities on the ground to provide humanitarian assistance to civilians in Gaza.
If we're talking about Gaza in particular, the agency is stretched to the max because of the ongoing fighting and hostilities and air bombing, and our very restricted access to most of the Gaza Strip and the concentration of people, 1.5 million people in Rafah today at the southernmost tip of the Gaza Strip, and also because of the restrictions on humanitarian assistance or aid trucks, food trucks coming in. But the bigger picture is a picture of a lot of political and financial pressure on UNRWA that affects its ability to continue working not only in Gaza, but also in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, Syria, Lebanon, and Jordan, where we run 700 schools for 500,000 children, 140 medical centers, and many more programs that are today at risk.
Can you put that into context for us? Because, we've heard from your director about how serious the funding crisis is. What is the real world impact on the cuts that you are experiencing on the civilians who are on the ground?
We're experiencing to date a freezing of funding that affects almost half of our budget requirements for this year. In numbers, this means that maybe already at the end of March, beginning of April, 500,000 girls and boys who go to 700 UNRWA schools may not be able to continue learning. It also means that if we don't get the funding back, 2 million patients, all Palestine refugees, who get up to 8 million medical consultations per year in our 140 health centers, might not be able to get their medicines for diabetes, high blood pressure, and other long-term diseases. But mostly, it means that almost the entire population in Gaza that today relies on UNRWA's food distribution and shelters might no longer be able to rely on UNRWA if we cannot continue our operations.
So I'd like to ask you a little bit more now on the background as to why these funding cuts are happening. We have these allegations from Israel that Hamas has infiltrated UNRWA. Israel has named a number of employees that it says were involved in the October 7th attacks. It's a shadow over your agency's reputation, and it is not the first time that the agency has faced criticism. How are you and how can you regain the trust of donor nations?
Let us start by saying that many donors and governments still trust UNRWA and still trust our ability to deliver humanitarian assistance in Gaza and schooling and other services everywhere. 16 donors decided to suspend their funding to the agency on the basis of allegations. Allegation is the operative term here. Every agency, every workplace, every bank, every institution, every media institution may face allegations of corruption, mistrust, or even criminality. There is a very serious investigation going on, commissioned by the UN Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres. The allegations are around 12 staff members out of a staff corps of 30,000, 30,000, and we are facing allegations against 12. Every allegation is extremely serious, but we cannot jump to conclusions before an investigation is over. And when the investigation concludes, then there are sanctions against those who are credibly believed to be implicated. For now, we already terminated their contracts. We already have an investigation, and we even have an internal review of all our rules and regulations related to staff behavior by three credible, yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you there, but my understanding is that Israel has actually named additional names since then, in addition to those 12 that you have mentioned. What more can you tell us about the UN's investigation into these allegations and the sort of timetable on which it is going to happen, and the circumstances under which you're going to get to the bottom of this, especially considering that right now you are operating in a war zone in Gaza?
I actually want to say that Israel shared with UNRWA 12 names. That is all Israel has shared with us. No evidence, no circumstances, no details, nothing. Everything else we've been hearing from the news, like the rest of the world. So we have not been in the possession of any evidence. But in all cases, our call is to Israel or to any entity that claims to have information to submit it to the investigation. The investigation is ongoing. It's the highest and the most authoritative investigating body of the UN from our headquarters in New York. The Secretary General of the UN promised a preliminary interim report within a month of the beginning of the investigation, so early March. Having said that, we at UNRWA are looking forward to not only the results of the investigation, but also the recommendations to improve our own internal systems.
Tamara, Alrifai, unfortunately, we have to leave it there. We've run out of time, but we thank you so much for joining us to share that perspective and to share the view of what your organization, how you are proceeding, and what you're currently going through with the current circumstances. We appreciate it.